Okay, he's got it on. We're off. We've already said what we're going to say.
Now, don't talk to the camera.
She's talked to you.
Yeah,
You want to know
it'll be more
specifically.
natural.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
How long did it take you to kiss each other the first time you met?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Hey, you've really jumped into the story though. We want to know about how they met and all that, though, don't we?
You go for the juggling. Don't you?
Open it up for questions at the end.
Okay, go, Madam.
You have to remember that if we don't remember, we might just make it up.
Well, you know. Okay, so this subject is called what? How we met?
How you met and fell in
I
love.
don't think you
Yeah.
remember. I'll have to correct.
That's
you
fine.
do the correct.
Just tell us the story. Start from the beginning,
Okay.
and we'll tell you where to stop.
You guys, you people all know Uncle Richard, right?
Sure.
Probably.
He's
Okay, Richard Thomas. I was in diesel technology at Utah State, and he was in automotive. This was
Okay.
before he had polio. And one day he said, how'd you like to go on a blind date?
Oh, you win.
And so he told me that this blind date would be is the twin sister of the girl he dates. Okay.
Question: how did you get introduced to that same blind date?
I guess Richard said, I'll get you a date. How would you like that? And I said, okay.
So anyhow, it was Uncle Richard was the Cupid on this deal. And
He didn't
so,
know.
He kind of looks like Cupid, doesn't he?
yeah. And,
I've never seen him naked.
anyhow, we went to a dance, a Golden Green Bowl.
It was a dance.
Yeah.
It was called Enchantment Under the Sea.
Yeah. It was a ward
Under the
or a
sea.
state dance.
Fish Under the Sea dance.
They did a lot of dancing in the wards in those days. And they were just very good.
So you
And,
were both active LDS members.
Yeah.
Back in those days,
And,
you had to kick your heels up.
How long had you been a member of the church, Mom?
Since I was 8. And this must have been when I was 17.
17 or 18. 17, I guess. And,
How old are you?
I was about 9 or 20, I guess. Just 19 or 20. But, and then there's some collusion going on here because her mother said, you two sure make a fine couple.
Is that right?
How did you meet?
On the first date?
Yeah. Oh, that was the first date. So
I met him when he walked through the door to pick me up
at your house.
at my house.
And what was your yeah? Let's hear those.
First thought.
Well, first of all, you know how girls are when they get ready for dates. They're not worried about the date. They're
Having
what
fun,
they're going to
drinking.
wear, and how they're going to fix their hair, and all this kind of stuff.
So they get a bad date, it doesn't matter.
No, well, let that look good.
If you get a good one, that's his
Get
bonus.
So my oldest sister Vivian made Viola and I dresses. We double dated, and so I still remember the dress. Pink.
You mean these were new dresses for the date?
Brand new dress. Pink
Wow.
taffeta, formal, formal. And I don't know. I guess
So that was the start of it.
So was the deal, Dan? You couldn't get paid for the dance for yourself? Is that a deal?
we did go
No,
to the
Richard
dance,
wanted
and
somebody
I
else to
thought,
go with.
Oh.
it's a pretty good dance.
So did you guys dance all dances? Or did you have like dance cards?
No, we had dance cards back in those days. You did that, you know.
But you danced a couple dances together.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the time we did.
Several
But,
What did you talk about on your date?
cars. He was in automotive, and I knew it. So. I didn't know much about cars.
he egged me on.
Tell us about your car, though. Tell us about your car, Dan.
Well, when I went to college, my older brothers didn't have a car when they went to college. So when they dated, they'd walk, and that didn't sound like a good idea to me. And so,
Especially if you're in automotive.
yeah, my brother and I, Uncle Ben, and I together bought this car for $400.
What year was it? It was
It was in 1940 ship. And it was an amazing car. It had, the radio was quite amazing. Six bands, shipped ashore, and police, and it even had the regular on there. No, they really went into those radios. But anyhow,
They don't make them like they used to.
No.
They halfway across the world.
And while I was in diesel technology, this one guy that was also in automotive hired me to help him, and it turned out his name was Owen Casperson, and he lived up in Preston. And so I'd drive up on the weekends and work for him. And I decided that we had to repaint the car. It was a black one at the time. So we painted it a two-tone. The bottom was kind of a light blue and the top was a beige. And
Light
so,
blue and beige. Ooh.
and,
Think of the Karate Kid, the yellow one with beige.
anyhow, it caught some attention because one time this one guy pulled up alongside of me and he says, "Want a drag?" So he thought I had some kind of a hot car. But anyhow,
No, I got
so
my
we
own
dated-
things.
we dated, and I wanted to get her in that car. I think she went for the car rather
I
than
was
me.
very impressed.
Were you really? What were your
Well,
car?
It was okay.
Their folks didn't have a car, so it didn't
That's
take
right.
much to
My
impress
parents,
her.
They didn't own a car.
So, what was your most memorable date, Mom?
Wait a minute. Before you move to that, what were your thoughts? You never answered that. What were your thoughts on this
We got
year's
to the
date?
pink dresses.
And we got to the, yeah, he's an okay dancer thing, but what were the thoughts?
You can have sideburns then.
Yeah, I think it did.
She must not like the sideburns.
Well,
like
I
sideburns.
thought it would be okay if he asked me out again.
No, that's not what you told us like about 10 years ago.
Well, the second day was okay, but then if he called me to go and I didn't have anything else to do, I'd go. But on the other hand, if he didn't have anybody else to call, he'd call me.
Oh.
I see.
So
You were the backup.
First
It
time.
wasn't, no, it wasn't this.
You just
Some of these things you have to work.
Kind of grew on you like mold, huh?
Yeah.
Fungus.
Okay, so Nick, answer my question.
Okay, what's your question?
What's the date that you remember? What was the magical date?
Huh?
Huh?
We got married.
No, where you,
The date you went out.
you know, this is the one where you,
Memorable day.
all of a sudden it clicks.
Yeah, when did you realize?
No, but just
Let's
tell
see,
us
I
about
think after
some
we've been
dates.
married about 35 years.
Nothing really clicked.
What were some fun dates?
Did we have fun days? Oh, the most fun thing we did was go square dancing. We really liked to square dance. Really fun to get out there and get blisters on your feet. That's
Yeah,
all I.
These are people who used to quilt for fun,
We would,
This is true. This is
you
true.
know. So.
it turned out that I was the
They went
president of the
skydiving.
Square Dance Club at Utah State that
Ooh.
particular year.
It turned out that way, huh?
It just it turned out that way. And so we'd square dance quite a bit together. And
Would you get her into the dances for free or something? Was that the deal?
well, it didn't. It was in college, so it didn't cost
I see.
anything. So we'd
Back in the good old days.
square dance a lot.
I feel like I'm on the witness stand.
That's okay, just
I'm
relax.
nervous.
And quite a few times we'd dance at this thing, what they call it, the Gomm Son.
The Gomm Son, yeah.
Tons and don'ts.
We danced a lot. We've been dancing a lot.
We even figured that what we would do after we got married was go dancing once a week.
Every Saturday we were going to dances.
That
Really?
lasted
Lasted 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Okay, no,
It's
Kim's,
different.
Kim's
You know,
question.
after you're married, it's different to go dancing. It's not. I mean,
Yeah.
when you go dancing, that's different. You can have your arms around each other.
Uh-huh.
But after you're married, that's
Well, now, how long? Okay.
Kim's question, how long before you kiss?
2
It
years.
was quite a while. She finally cornered me.
Quite a while, like 2 or
Mom
3
kissed you, she
hours.
kissed you? Who kissed who?
Well, it
Who's
takes two
blushing?
to kiss, you know.
Who kissed
But
who?
someone's got to make that first move.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
So?
That I tell him.
Did you kiss? So did Mom kiss you first?
No, it was a mutual agreement.
They had.
I'm gagging. They come ready. Just kidding.
But you gotta be careful about that kissing because that leads you to getting more serious.
Leads you to getting married.
I see.
So
Oh.
it led to us
So
getting
I
married.
got the impression that Mom kissed Dad first.
I think Dad kissed Mom.
Well, actually, I don't remember. So he could tell you anything, and
So where does Cleo fit into all of this?
this was after Cleo.
There was a Cleo.
This was AC.
Yeah, I see.
After Cleo.
Uh,
Oh yeah, but how was it? Like a month? Was it a year
Oh,
For dating?
before when you started dating to when you kissed?
Oh, probably a couple months.
Now, how about
Maybe a
when you
month.
start
Yeah.
dating until like you propose?
Was it in February that dance was?
Yeah, I
It
think
was
so.
the following February we were married.
now you got married in the Logan Temple,
Yeah.
but Mom, your parents didn't get to go to the wedding ceremony then. What was that like? Was that hard on them or?
I never asked
It's
them.
quite hard on Mom because going to the temple is a new thing, and
Sure.
but she had a neighbor that was just really nice.
Richard's
It was
mother.
Richard's mother.
Oh, I remember her.
Yeah. Do you remember what a sweet lady she was?
Oh, she was, except when she pulled that ice cube tray off Ricky's tongue.
Anyway, she
Hey,
kind of
good.
and talked with me and showed me.
Oh,
Kinda-
that's nice.
kinda went with her through the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Wow, that's
So-
really exceptional.
So at the time of your first kiss, then, did you know you were in love?
Oh,
It was purely physical.
It's,
platonic relationship.
actually, I don't think
It's
so.
kind of hard. You got to remember here.
Here,
We're talking 44.
I know times are
Plus
different.
years
That's
ago.
why I'm curious.
Their hormones were raging just as bad as all of ours were.
Okay, because I know Christy and I made out a lot before we were in love.
I have a suggestion for you. Write that down if you're going to tell your kids 40 years from now.
No, I'm sure that we didn't think we were in love when we first kissed. I was just being sociable.
Just be nice.
She only kisses socially.
So then, how long was your engagement, or what? The proposal then?
Yeah.
how'd you
How about
propose?
the proposal?
Well, it took me several months to get him
Well,
brave
first,
enough to propose.
first of all, I had to know if she was the right one for me. So I prayed a lot, and my antenna or my radio receiver needed to be a little finer tuned, and so I thought I came up on this.
That was the
idea.
seventh fan. That he made.
Yeah.
So I told the Lord I was gonna call her up tonight for a date, and if
This was without her knowing.
she said no, then that meant that'd be the end, and if she said yes, then we'd get on with this.
It's just like asking
And so that was just the very night that I asked her to go out. I mean, I called her the very night that I asked her to go out, so it wasn't really fair to her.
It wasn't.
Because, but tests are not supposed to be necessarily fair. And so,
So you called. What did you think when you called?
I had another date.
You did?
Oh.
Yes, I did.
Did you know that?
no,
He didn't know that.
So you called and asked what?
Yeah. What you
I
weren't
should
you weren't
just ask her for a
exclusively
date.
dating? You weren't exclusively dating?
No.
Wait a
Whoa.
second.
It was just social.
What are you saying?
You were kissing, you weren't exclusively dating. No, I
Man, these guys really are, I'm on your side. These guys are interrogating me, aren't
like I said, I
You
feel
gotta
like
get the whole story out here.
they? Man.
I worked at the theater, the movie theater. sold tickets and I did that charade.
Here, you
And
did.
lots of
It's
times
not for you.
he'd come over
No,
after
here.
I got through work to take me home. And
You go in the kitchen.
so he called me when I was at work. And I was going to go out with this other guy. There were 3 couples, I guess, of us that were going to go out dancing after work. And the guys were going to come over. And so he called me and said he wanted to come over and pick me up and take me home after work. And so I said, okay. And then I went and I was talking to my sister and another girl. And I said, what do I do? Do I stand this guy up and go Thiel, or do I just run off? Just come, I'm not
So
here.
what'd you do?
And they just couldn't tell me what to do. What do you want to do? How do you feel? And I
Wow.
said, well, I just have this feeling that if I don't go with him tonight, I will never see him again.
Oh,
wow.
No,
Yeah,
that's
true.
honest truth.
Wow.
Think it back to the future. Fade out.
Ooh.
Wow.
I did. I
The
had a
nexus.
feeling. So I just said, he better get here before this other guy gets there, and then we'll go. So I left and left my
You didn't
friends
even-
to make
Did you-
apologies.
did you
This other guy
You
you didn't
just-
tell him, you just blitzed and left this other guy.
You stood that guy up.
So that
Oh, Grandma,
Yeah.
from
you're
then
cool.
on it got serious.
So for you,
But
that
that
was a
Yeah,
meaningful
we
event.
killed
'cause-
him too.
But
Huh?
see,
Very
I didn't know
they were
till
kissing before.
a lot of years later, and then he told me.
So you
about
didn't
this
talk about it
test.
that night.
No, not
So,
at all.
Huh.
so you didn't propose that night?
Mhm.
When did you propose then? What, first of all, was this before you started kissing? Or
No, they'd
Or
been
were you
kissing
kissing
already.
this time?
There must have been a little kissing.
so you proposed.
You don't start praying to know if she's right until
Right.
after there's been some kissing.
So
what
after
does-
that, how long did it take till you actually propose?
It's
After
hard
the
to
test.
remember that.
Do you remember details of the proposal then? You must.
Well, I'll have to tell you about the proposal.
Okay.
See, I was still in high school,
Okay.
and on occasion, Viola and Kay and Marilyn and I would go into town during lunch hour. Well, this one day we went into town. Viola was buying a set of silverware at the jewelry store, and she had to go in to make her payment on her silverware. So we all went walking into the jewelry store. There stood Thiel and his brother at the counter,
Right.
looking at
Is
diamonds.
is that right?
And I saw them, I said, oh! And we turned around and we walked out there.
It was bright, Mary.
So he didn't know you saw
See
him.
me. And so I thought,
What did
I think you ran all the way home.
Her heart was aflutter.
oh, he's going to give me a ring tonight. He's going to do it. You sure?
Was it that night? Then?
Wow.
I think it was that night.
Oh, that would have been terribly disappointing.
So what did you do then? So yeah, how did the proposal go then?
Well, then I went to get permission from her father, but her father worked out of town, so I asked her brother, if I married their daughter.
What did Mom
What'd
say?
she say?
About time you asked.
Only if you
Now,
use the car.
Was this before you'd given her the ring, or was this actually before?
No, probably after I.
I think it was after.
I see. So that's the way it's done. You propose, then you ask for permission.
I think
Well,
that's
that, it was a
That's
little
one
bit
of the that's one of the ways.
That's been backward here and there.
Well, I don't know.
How did you actually ask then? When did you give her the ring?
That's kind of.
Well, I remember we were sitting in the car.
Were we?
We
I
did a
thought
lot
I,
of sitting in the car.
I thought I got on my knees.
Oh, you did not.
Well, those cars back then, they had a lot more foot room.
I guess
so.
Give me your room.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange? You really do forget. You really do. So, you guys write yours all down?
Nah, I told the story so much, I'll never forget.
We'll remind you.
Sorry, famous.
How long was the engagement?
Actually, it wasn't very long.
Was it about a month or
Only
something?
about a month or so. Yeah.
Now, what it turned out to be, see, we got married
Get in, get in.
on February 20th,
So you got.
Mama turned 18 in January 26th.
So did you propose just before or just after her birthday?
I don't remember.
Or like on her birthday?
But
On her birthday, we gotta give her a birthday present too.
see, you had to be 21 unless you had your parents' permission.
Oh, so you didn't ask because it was the right thing to do. You asked because he couldn't get married without his permission.
No, for my own father. To get the license, I had to have my father sign it.
Oh, because you weren't yet 21.
I was,
Oh.
see, February 20 and March 7
Then he's
was the
20.
difference
Okay.
between me being 21. And so I had to have my father sign on the.
So you got married when you were 20. How old were you?
18.
18. 20 and 18.
Wait.
You're still in high school, weren't you?
No, I think that's pretty.
Yeah, so then after we got married, we had this little apartment. This was an interesting apartment. It was a basement apartment, and you come in from the back of the house. You go down stairs about 4 steps, and you were in the shower.
Wow.
And you go through the shower into the kitchen, and then off to the side of the kitchen was the
Sorry.
bedroom.
Oh my.
That was it.
And we think we've
Come on in,
got.
have a shower.
These people.
Wipe your feet before you come in.
These people who owned houses where college kids were turn anything into an apartment. So that was our.
They actually used to be the dumpster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a coal bin.
So now you were still in automotive, and you didn't get out of automotive until after you went in the service. Is that right?
Yeah. See, what happened is.
Now, weren't there student deferments at that time?
I don't remember, but I had stayed out of school for a quarter, and that was just long enough for them to nail me
I
to
see.
the draft. And let's see, what was it? We were married in February, and by April the 3rd, I was in the Army.
Wow, that was
And
fast.
What did you think when you got the draft, Mom?
I don't like that one bit.
We knew that was going to be tough
Yeah,
because we didn't have hardly any money, and we were going through our stuff and found a $35 check that we hadn't cashed. So that gave us some money.
Which war was,
And,
was that draft for?
What?
Two.
The
Come on.
Korean.
No.
I thought it was Korean.
Korean
Was
War.
it really?
Korean War.
No way. It was 40s, and he was born in 30s.
Yeah, but oh, you mean
This is in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
So Korean. That's what I thought.
Yeah, Uncle Morel and Uncle Bryant were in the. Was Bryant in the Korean or World War II? Korean. But yeah, I think Uncle Morel was the only one. Who was
So did you pull your basic at Fort Ord?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened is,
I
Mom had to go back and live with her folks when I went into the service.
Man.
And,
I stayed there. I stayed and finished school.
but they
Oh.
charged their
Finished
rent.
school.
Didn't your parents charge you rent?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I was
You were
shocked.
only halfway through high school.
Well, almost finished. It was February, and I graduated in June.
Okay.
But they
And
charged you rent. I can't believe that.
See, now I do believe that must have been true love. You know, Mom and Dad even let you get married. That must have
Sorry, we
been.
had her warm for a minute.
anyhow, then I was 6 weeks into basic training, and I had Mom come down. All right, you were out of school by then.
That was in June.
They say we go sit
And,
there and do it.
So then we lived off post, and we were so poor that we didn't. We had to team up with another couple to share an apartment. And the first couple we teamed up with, it was just a really nice place. But the other couple, the lady was nice, but the guy was a sergeant, and here I was a peon nothing,
Private.
and private nothing. and he was kind of better than me kind of thing because he was a sergeant. And but anyhow, that's how we made it through basic.
Yeah.
But when she got there, I'd been on maneuvers and stuff, and I was so tired. And somebody took us, hauled us around, and I fell asleep in the back of the car.
Did he snore
She
when you
thought there
were
was
first
something
married?
wrong with me.
You'd come home on weekends, and I'd be talking to him, and he'd be in the middle of a sentence answering, and he'd just fall asleep. Stay
I
away.
do that now.
But it was, and then when I started out in a 16-week basic, which was for the infantry kind of people, and about the 6 weeks into basic, then they shifted me to another one, which was an 8-week one, because they wanted me to go through the automotive school, and
Because they knew you had the
diesel technology. And about 3 weeks into the school, they pulled me out and made me an instructor. I never made it all the way through the school.
Oh yeah.
Started teaching.
And then so I
An
started
instructor of what?
of
Automotive.
automotive.
Wow, that's it.
And so
Vehicle maintenance, was it vehicle
I
maintenance?
taught about
Change the oil.
engines and the generating system and the carburation and cranking and all those things. Well, the old Army vehicles had 24-volt systems, and if you dropped a 3/8 wrench across there, it would melt it just like that. So you had to make sure you didn't have got power across your ring or something like that. I'll have to tell you one. When I was teaching about electricity, and so I made up some training aid stuff. And of course, there were black fellers, and in those days they were called Negroes, and there were white fellers, and in those days we called them white fellers.
In those days they were called master.
Oh, man.
Anyhow,
Ooh, that was
I was
politically off
telling him about this, the magnetic lines of force that go around the Earth, and I said if you swing a wire through this magnetic field, then you're cutting these lines of force, and you create this electricity in your hand. And I had this light bulb over here in this other hand, and I started whipping this around. That light bulb turned on, and this black kid on the front row just saw that, and he just slid all right out of his seat. That was funny.
What? It actually made it didn't actually make it glow. I mean, what was the trick?
I was just trying
It really happened. Well, you same
You
as
don't think I made
Prayed
it
really
glow?
hard.
He prayed really hard.
Anyhow, that was funny. They had some interesting training aids. We had like a distributor. We were on the car. We had a thing that was this big around. There's metal made out of wood and parts, and you could turn the stuff. So we had some pretty good training aids for
Did you
them.
make a chair that would shock your brothers and sisters?
Yep. But anyhow, that was kind of.
So is that what you ended up doing in the service? Was
I spent my
was
whole
the
time in
automotive?
service as an automotive instructor.
How did you end up being a telegrapher for the railroad then?
Taking correspondence course.
Before I went into the railroad, Uncle Merrill and I decided to work together and pay for this course.
Uh huh.
Then he
What course?
he paid his share, but he didn't do anything, and so I decided since we paid for it, we better do it after I got out. That was after I got out of the service. But
Oh,
while
I
we were
see.
in the service, this old master sergeant that I worked for, he had his boozing buddies, and he'd have us come in and we'd work on building stages and different things that we needed to, and and he wanted me to go out and booze with him, and I told him no, I got other things to do. And one day, and I was driving back and forth. We lived in Pacific Grove. This was off base, and the field first sergeant. I rode back and forth with him. And one day, in the course of the conversation, he says, do you want to go overseas? I said, heck no. And that's all he said. Well, all of a sudden, this old master sergeant and all of his cronies were on orders for overseas duty. And they were gone. And then when we had about, how many months left to go? About 9 months. You were born, and you were in the hospital. You came premature, and we tried to get off of orders because what did we do? There was Mom. I couldn't get her back to Utah, and so we were in a dilemma. So we tried everything we could, and I went to the Red Cross, and they just told me a sadder story, and so that was the help I got from them. And anyhow,
So don't donate to him.
I told Mom, I said, the only choice we have is for you to call the commanding general. And of course, that made Mom just very...
Ooh.
And I was just a
I just got out of high
young
school.
little girl.
She'd just about rather have me go overseas. So, anyhow, she called, and they put
I was
her
shaking, I was
in
just shaking, and I
in
didn't know
touch
what
with
to
a
say.
Captain Kim. And that Captain Kim must have had a lot on a lot of people, because he called, whoever he called, they trembled. And between him and this old white captain, because of you still being in the hospital, got us off orders. I had all of my shots and everything. I was ready to go. It was going over to Switzerland or somewhere. I was going to be back in the third echelon or somewhere with the vehicles. But I was off orders like that. And then this one fellow who kind of ran the company office told me the story. He says, do you know you were on orders once before? And I said, no. And so then he told me about this Sergeant Casper who put these other guys on orders for overseas duty. And so that was...
And it was just that one comment, huh?
That was all that I said, and he took the ball. They were just nice. We met his wife. She couldn't have children. She'd been in a concentration camp, and her body was damaged, and they just would have loved to have a child, but they couldn't. And we visited with them, and
They were older.
they were older. They kind
older
of
than we were.
like the father figure to us, and they just kind of took us under their wings.
Wow.
And that was just really unique. So
Especially in a time like that where you don't really have a whole lot of contact with...
And I got to tell you about you getting born. Mom had labor pains. Of course, this was a new thing, and she didn't have any mother or mother-in-law around, and so we didn't know.
Well, I'd never been through this.
And besides that,
Sure.
it was pretty doggone early.
How early?
Yeah, 2 months.
Oh.
He was due in June, and he was born in April. So I didn't know I was in labor. I'd never been in labor before. I knew I didn't feel good.
Yeah, oh.
So we decided we better take her to the post, to the hospital.
The hospital.
And so I took her there, and she says, "No, don't you go away. I'll be back in a little bit."
Don't you leave here without me.
So it wasn't very long before
A couple hours.
they told me that you were born.
A baby boy.
And
Huh?
They,
What a
they took
surprise.
me in and checked me and put me in the labor room and came in, and the nurses well, looks like it's going to happen pretty soon now. And I thought, what?
What's going to happen?
I mean, I just knew nothing. They didn't, teach us?
You didn't have what to expect when you're expecting back then.
Wow.
It was, but it was interesting. One time when I drove in to see her and you, I drove in and Mom says, "Did you feel the earthquake?"
That was scary.
I said, "What earthquake?" While I was driving.
So you were driving, so you couldn't feel it.
Couldn't tell.
But I was in that hospital bed, and things began to really shake. And I said, "What is going on? What's the matter?" And one of the gals across the way said, "It's an earthquake." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, the earth's gonna open up and swallow us all."
So
But it was really just a mild one.
Where was this? Where?
This was in Provo, California.
So he was 2 months early, but were there no complications?
7 weeks early.
He had to
7
stay in the
weeks?
hospital for 5 weeks.
And was he on respirators and things?
For a
Incubators.
while, for just a short
Yeah.
while.
How much did he
He was
weigh?
in the incubator.
He weighed 4 pounds and 2 ounces. And he went down to 312.
Wow.
33 weeks, not 23 weeks.
So
The good old days.
But you know, what was our hospital bill? $65?
No, it was $5.
I thought it was $5.
No, they charged $7 for me, and they charged a little bit for me.
Free.
Well, that was always the number Dad was giving me when I was younger, was 5.
It was so amazing.
Pretty cheap,
That
though.
was amazing.
Of course, that was a lot of money back then if you're only making $35 a month.
Well, we made, it actually was $98 a month that we got. While I was in there. And I don't remember if it was ever not when we first started or not.
We complained a lot about it, but it ended up to be a great blessing. Because we had gotten GI Bill.
At payday, they'd have the paymaster come out with the money, and then you'd go through and they'd thumb out the money, and then they had these lieutenants or people standing in line wanting to get some donation for this or that. And here we only have $98 to make us for the whole month, including paying for our rent and food and everything. And so I very quickly figured out something. They said, "You want to contribute to such and such?" If you said no, then they'd put you on KP or something.
What's KP?
And I
Kitchen
Kitchen
control or
blues.
anyhow so I said, "Well, no, I'm contributing to the GDR fund." Oh,
what was that? Your own?
nobody ever asked what the GER fund was.
Well, I'll bet it's the Gomm Emergency Relief.
That's
Very good.
it. So that's how we
Well,
did
you know,
nothing.
We needed a high chair. And I thought, I don't know how we're ever going to afford a high chair. And then there was this contest. Well, I guess it was a drawing. You signed up and it was a drawing to win a high chair. And so I signed up and I really prayed for that. I thought, I know we have to have this high chair. And so I prayed that we'd win this drawing, that we get this high chair. We didn't win it. I didn't know why. Because it wasn't the right prayer. We finally did get one.
Well, I think I remember you winning something when I was 5. I think I remember you always had the ironing board set up in the living room. You used to iron, and I think you went to the phone and called the radio station and won a knife sharpener or something.
Was this in Logan?
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't remember that.
Yeah. I also remember one time you left me and went over to see Aunt Viola, so I called the operator. I got on the phone and said, "I'd like to talk to my mom, please." And she said, "Well, where is your mom, little boy?" "She's over at Aunt Viola's."
Were you home alone? You couldn't have been home.
I don't know, where were you? You're probably out back or something. You know, but-
I did win something once, though. When we lived in Castle Rock,
Yeah?
they had this contest, and it was toward Mother's Day. they wanted you to write in a little bit about you and how many children you have. And the woman with the most children will win a prize.
All right.
What'd you win?
A gift certificate for $10, and I got at one of the stores there, and I got a blouse.
Yeah, I remember was Dad winning that shop back.
Well, actually, it wasn't me. It was Mom that put my name in.
Oh, wow.
All right,
For
cool.
what? That shop back.
No, I think that the surroundings around Troy being born were pretty miraculous too, though. What's
Actually, it was Tricia.
Oh, it was Trisha. That's right.
Huh?
Who was that?
You're
Was
asking-
with you?
You're asking us all these questions because just this last week we've been putting all this stuff on the computer,
Oh.
all this history. All you guys got to do is just read it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
It's easier to
great.
watch
Did
it on
it say
TV.
who
Yeah.
kissed who?
We're waiting for the movie.
What?
Did it say who kissed who?
Yeah.
It's Mike. You'll have to read it to find out.
So,
For sure, you're getting a lot more from Dad.
what was the
Uh-huh.
deal with Tricia? Was there complications?
With Tricia, well,
We're living in
we were living
Castle
in
Rock,
Castle
Colorado.
Rock, and that was about a
I know.
45-minute
We were
drive
there.
from the hospital.
You were little.
And,
I remember. Dad made porridge. What's Dad cooking? Made porridge and potato soup.
Troy came over to stay with us one time, and it was a blast. We took you out and took you to we went to a restaurant. We commonly went to restaurants in those days. And Mom was just so shocked. What? You mean Troy was good? You know, but we can't take you anywhere. But that's because the older boys always used to beat up on you, you know.
I think that was when we went to Grandpa's funeral. We left Troy with you.
Oh, really?
With you.
This was in Utah?
So when we were in Colorado, we were in Colorado.
No, it was this one. This is when they had family tree thing, wasn't it?
getting to that still.
Or was that before that?
That was
Yeah.
that was the 50th wedding anniversary.
Oh.
So it was just before that. Grandpa died right after that.
Okay, so on with that story. Now, who was with you? Somebody was with you that really was
When I went in, yeah.
And,
You-
Mary Applegate.
Mary Applegate. So you guys were friends when you were living in Colorado?
In Utah before we moved to Colorado.
Well, yeah, but I thought,
See, we had the business in Utah, and then we moved it to Colorado. And
did the Applegates move out to Colorado too?
Yeah, he was my partner.
Okay, I just don't remember them in Colorado.
Yeah. They
I remember
lived in
Clay and Dirk.
Yeah. You know, that was funny. When we moved, Larry kept our animals while we found a place, and then we kept our animals, his animals, while he found a place. Well, we had these two goats, Annie and Billy. And Larry had been a boxer when he was in the Marines. And the one day this Billy goat got him so exasperated, he hauled up and smacked him right in the nose and knocked him down. And then Larry says, you know, I don't think I could get to the celestial kingdom if I had raised goats.
It must be.
Okay.
Oh, we got to tell you one more thing about the goats. When we were in Colorado, I made a harness for Billy, and I made this cart. I remember that.
Remember the song?
Sure, I remember that.
So I decided it was time to give Billy his maiden voyage. And so I hooked him up to the
goat
cart, and I had one of the
No,
kids
that's other
take
one, honey.
Annie down to the other end of the pasture, and I tied a rope to each of his horns, and so he took off, and he was on the run, and here I was in this chariot behind him.
Oh, you were the
I was pulling
driver.
on the
Huh?
rope, and I pulled so hard that the only thing that was on the ground were his hind legs. The rest of him was in the air. That was kind of an interesting ride.
Oh, right. Well, so did you want to tell us any more about that particular birth, or was that enough?
What
Oh yeah, you better tell Bill about it.
Well,
We could have lost her at that time.
yeah.
And Tricia.
All through my pregnancy with Tricia, I kept having this kind of a dark feeling that maybe I wouldn't live to raise these little boys.
Wow.
I told Thiel that I, I kind of felt that way. And so I had some false labor with Tricia 2 or 3 weeks before she was born. I went into the hospital and spent the night. And then the doctor told me after that, he said, don't go anywhere in the evening and don't go there alone. If you have to go to town or something, always take somebody with you.
Why?
Well, because he didn't really tell me why, but he just kind of
he just told you.
gave me a warning. And then he also told me, he said, if something happens and we have to take this baby cesarean, I'm going to call in a specialist. I said, okay. He says, but there's nothing to worry about. Everything's going to be all right. So anyway, it was just before Easter, and
back when doctors.
and I had to go into town just to finish up some things for Easter and stuff, and like I said, it was like a 45-minute drive.
Oh.
So I thought, well, I'll call Mary and ask her to go, and I felt so stupid. Call her and will you come and go to town with me? I felt like an invalid. But she says, yeah, I'll go. So we went to town, and of course the 3 little boys, Tyler, Tom, and Troy, took them with us. And so we went and did the shopping and got to a restaurant to eat. And while we were in that restaurant, I started bleeding profusely, and I knew it wasn't going to stop. But if it had been me, I'd probably alone with 3 little boys. I'd probably gotten in the car, driven home, or tried to drive home, and then called Thiel. Which would have been a very stupid thing to do. I think that's what I'd have done. I'd have never made it. I'd have never made it home. But Mary was with me, and she went to the phone immediately, called the doctor, and he says, take her to the hospital. We were 2 blocks from the hospital. So she drove me directly to the hospital. They took me right up, and I was going to shop when they took me out. And so
You were only 2 blocks from the hospital when this happened?
Yes. But see, if I'd had 3 children with me, what would I have done along with 3
If you had been in Castle Rock when this started,
yeah,
what would you have done?
So it would have been great. It was great that she had Mary go with her even into town that day.
To be that
Not
close. Anyway, they took me up immediately and got me ready and took me in. They called Thiel while the doctor was there. I think he got there while the doctor was washing me up and talking to me before I went in. So,
And she was cesarean, wasn't she?
So what had been wrong then?
well, the placenta had dropped down.
She had
Had slipped and come down.
So that's what the doctor knew.
He had known that. He had known that it was beginning, but he didn't tell me that.
So what?
Maybe a placenta.
Well, he's probably afraid if you work too much, you might cause problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it all worked out okay, but I think back on it that if I'd been alone with 3 little boys, I don't think I'd have made it anywhere.
My. Boy, that is
Mallory, bring me my cup.
that really is miraculous.
So we knew that was our last child.
It's nice to have confirmation. All right, we're done, and we know we're done.
Well, I'm glad you didn't know. We're done, and we know we're done.
What was your confirmation?
Blood clots, man. The doctor coming in at 5 in the morning saying, that's probably going to be your last kid.
The doctor tells you
Which
you're done.
reminds
You
me,
say,
Dave, that I
okay.
need to talk to you a little later about, certain procedures that can be done.
Yeah, let's get that on tape.
These 2 are all explaining. They watched it on like PBS, and I'm like, I can't get fish, man. I mean, they got that on tape too. I was already passed out, man. When I catch it and get it, man, I can kill it. But then after that, the adrenaline's gone. You're just like.
Yeah, Tom was all right. He gave us quite a few dollars when he came to get a fish.
And every time he has to do it. Now, how do I do this again?
Show me how.
Do it for me, please.
That's okay. I prefer to have Jeannie go kill the spiders.
What was it Maurice said when you
Do you do it?
No. Catherine knows to call me. Mom!
I'll do it sometimes,
These
if they
guys
really
freak
She's
out
not
over
home.
something that's just little. I mean, it's not like
Yeah, if they're really little, then you can just hit them with your thumb, no problem, right?
Well, are we gonna play a game then?
Okay. Well, that was good. That was a good.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Session.